good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. This show is being recorded in the Portland metro area in the US of A. And for you first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like most of you out there about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals and about whatever it is we have decided to talk about. And this evening we'll be talking about the threat of high-stakes testing to public education. And I think we agreed that there is a threat there. We'll be talking about that after we talk in the first half of the show about who each of you are personally. And I want to welcome you to the show, and nice to meet you. And how are you feeling now?
I am feeling very comfortable, actually. Yeah.
And Dana, how are you?
I'm quite well.
I can't believe this. I'm the only guy who's nervous.
It'll be all right.
Thank you, thank you. You can call me Don or Dr. Don, whatever feels good for you. And can I call you by your first name?
Sure.
Okay. So, who shall I talk to first about who you are? Shall I talk to you or to Dana first?
Wisdom
Okay.
goes first.
Okay.
Well, elder wisdom goes first.
Okay.
Okay.
Defer to the elder.
I know about that a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
So, if I were to ask your best friend, who is Paul? What would your best friend say? Paul is what?
Yeah. Well, Paul is a person that really cares about people, especially his family, and he cares about children and cares about the future.
Very brief and very potent, right to the point. Yeah. All right. When and where were you born, Paul?
I was born in York, Pennsylvania, May 1st, 1947.
47.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Why were you born?
I was born to have an impact on this world. And I've been searching ever since. It's been my trail. I've been looking and trying to connect and see where I fit and see what I can do to help. I deeply care and want to see a better future. And so that's where I'm at. That's why I was born. Yeah.
Have you been successful at those things?
I think so far, yes. I don't want to brag, but I've done pretty good and helped build 2 community centers up in northern Idaho in rural area.
Oh my gosh.
I helped set up a preschool program that was an accredited preschool, which is really hard to do. And got the people to see up there, the parents and the elders up in our area, that early childhood education is really important, and that
yes.
preschool still runs today.
Wonderful.
Which I really feel good about that.
That was in northern Idaho.
In northern Idaho,
Yay.
Latah County, near the University of Idaho, but we were at the other end of the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything significant about your cultural or national heritage worth telling the viewers about?
Well, I thought it was German with Eck, the name Eck.
Yes.
You know, and that. But then about 4 years ago, I found out something very interesting. My uncle, Dick Eck, did a genealogy of where we were from.
That's a thing nowadays.
And my gosh, no, I won't do that to you. But
do it to me.
guess what? I'm not German. Alsace-Lorraine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that
In
little
France.
area with France and Switzerland and Germany pulled together.
And yourself one off?
I knew the mayor of that place.
Really?
Not personally, but he
I'll be
was a
darned.
good friend of my uncle.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Hey.
And
hey.
he was in the underground, the French underground,
That's
working
neat.
against the Nazis.
Yeah. Well, one other real tidbit real fast.
Sure.
Is that when my dad was a tanker in World War II in the Army, he was a tank commander, landed in Marseille and came up through. And I was looking through his books after I found out where we were from, and I found out that he did most of his fighting in Alsace-Lorraine. He didn't know it. So I thought that was interesting.
Interesting. Yes, this connections. I discovered. I have 5 daughters, and 2 or 3 of them are deeply involved in this kind of research. And I thought that I heard that many years ago, Baham was a different spelling of the German, because that's where my mother was red and white. I'm from New Orleans, and Papa was mixed race too. That's come out the way that I do. So, but then, just a couple years ago, I found out that's a mistake. It's France and not Germany. And I'm waiting for the next go around of information. Who knows where the hell I'm from then?
Be interesting to see.
Yeah, and they're having fun with it. Yeah, and for me, I say, what the heck? I'm here. That's good enough for me, you know.
Yeah.
But let's continue with you now. Religious preference. Do you have one?
Well,
And you don't have to ask any question that I ask you. Answer them. You don't have to.
I was raised Catholic, and then went over.
Been there.
That just didn't fit what I was looking for, and I joined the Presbyterian Church in Beauville, Idaho, and that was so. I thought when I walked through the door that the clouds would open up, and the lightning would strike me, but it didn't happen, and that congregation was so involved with community ministry, with linking with the school that I was principal of, and linking with the poor, food bank, doing all kinds of really good things. And that was a real good fit. And then when we moved from Beauville to be closer with our grandkids, Isaac and Stella, we could not find a church community until I started reading about this church up by Bimart on Halsey, Northeast Halsey. And those people opened up their church for the homeless. And they actually came in and lived in the church and parts of the church for a long period of time.
That's here in Portland?
In Portland, yeah. It's the Park Rose Community United Church of Christ.
Yes, I think I know where it is.
And then I started looking at advocacy on high stakes testing and found out that the UCC, their ministry, was involved with some of the resolutions and things in regard to high stakes testing.
UCC meaning what?
United Church of Christ.
Yes, excuse me.
I'm sorry, I should have.
No problem. This goes on all the time.
Yeah, I bet it does. And I found that out, and then I remembered that they were so involved with the farmers market up there. They're involved with Snowcap. That's where my wife is tonight, or she'd be here with me too. And I said, these people this church is connected to community. Let's go take a look at it. And we walked through that door, and it was such a welcoming experience. So we joined. Yeah.
And you've been there ever since?
Been there ever since.
How long ago was that you joined?
That was a little over a year ago.
Good. It's working for you.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. So, your formal education.
Okay.
Tell me about that a little bit.
Sure. Graduate of Hempfield High School. I was a Black Knight back in Landisville, Pennsylvania. Decided I wanted to move somewhere away from Pennsylvania, so a group of us came to the University of Idaho. And I got a bachelor's degree in education at the University of Idaho and a master's MED at the University of Idaho. Right.
Yeah. How come you two are together?
Well, I'll tell you. I met Dana at the Oregon Save Our Schools at one of those meetings, I believe it was. And we also met at a opt-out committee meeting. And I was listening to what she had to say from a parental viewpoint on education and that type of thing. And I have a special education background too. And she has some children that are involved with special needs. So it was a kind of a natural. We started visiting and talking, and now we're working together on some projects. Yeah.
Okay, so and any other education worth mentioning besides the living in this world and learning from experiencing? for example, I belong to Portland's PSU. I have a student card and PCC, and I always have those cards because I'm always taking some new class or something that I'm curious about. That's what prompted the question.
Okay. Well, I'm a lifetime member of the Idaho Lifelong Learning Association, so you dug it out. I was trying to hide that, and you snared me. But we're always looking at something to expand our horizons. My wife and I, we're pretty close together, and when we see short classes and opportunities to learn new things, why we like wine tasting, those types of things.
Sure.
Like we're going to a workshop on elder dental health put on by the university in town here. So we
Okay.
do. Yeah.
You're still learning, huh?
We will continue to learn. You bet.
How long ago did you retire from being in the educational process formally?
I retired about 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you do in your spare time? Like you have any anymore.
We keep extremely busy right now. We're looking at the possibilities of setting up a statewide organization. I also belong to the Grange out at Multnomah County, and I'm the lecturer there, so I'm actually bringing in people and doing things. Let's see, I also, boy, I went blank there for a second.
It happens to me all the time.
I also, wait a minute here, the Oregon Retired Educators Association. I'm a member of that also. And,
Yeah. Got a lot going on.
so we have a few things going on.
What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? Cribbage, board games. I like to travel, especially to the coast periodically, and just walk and
Ditto.
just walk and look and see.
Yeah.
Let's see, going to Puerto Rico in
You been to Cuba yet?
November. Not yet.
Oh,
No, not
I'm
yet.
going back.
But that sounds inviting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your wife, and tell me her name again.
Jan,
Do you love her?
with all my heart.
Oh, you better tell her then. Look
Yeah.
at camera
Oh,
3.
okay. Hey, Jan, I love you with all my heart. Honest.
We wanted to hear it from your mouth. Of course.
Now she
yeah.
has it in perpetuity.
44 plus years.
That's a while.
And counting, so
Yeah.
and it's, yeah.
How about children? You have children?
I have 2 girls. Sally is a teacher, lecturer over at Portland State University in the Women's Studies program there, and does a capstone that I read the student comments at the end of the year. They do a evaluation of the instructor, and it just brings tears to my eyes. So proud. She's so cool. Just a wonderful young lady doing social justice things, feminism things. Her and I, you know, we team up periodically and do some work too. And then my younger daughter, Poppy, is married to a Coast Guardsman, and that's why we're heading to Puerto Rico, because they live there. And they actually took off to go back to Puerto Rico this morning. I've been up since 3:30, so if I fall asleep on you, there is a reason. You know, so.
They'll say there's somebody else who falls asleep just like Dr. Don all the time. Grandchildren?
Yes. My grandson Gavin's 4, and he's with Poppy heading toward Puerto Rico. They should be there just right now. As a matter of fact, there's a 3-hour differential this time of the year. And then Isaac and Stella are Sally's kids. Yeah.
Do they like Grandpa?
I think so. I really do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, your political persuasion, need I ask, are you left, right, or center, or what? Or off the continuum?
I left the Democratic Party after 47 years,
Wow.
about a year ago, and joined the Working Families Party. And so I would say I'm probably left to center quite fair amount on the continuum.
You're pushing me over the edge. I'm
So,
yeah. Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations, any kinds of memberships worth mentioning so the viewers get an idea where you're coming from, what you're about.
well, I belong to the Oregon Retired Educators Association, and I'm vice president of the Unit 1 here in Portland, and I'm also the second vice president pro tem of the state organization. So in 4 years, I'll be the president of that organization. So I'm very active in working with elders who have an educational bent. And I think there's a lot of power there to be tapped, positive power.
You bet.
So we're working on that. Also, I belong to the Multnomah Grange number 71. And I did not know that the Grange, you can have a Grange that's all women members, but you cannot have a Grange that is just men. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. There's more elected positions in the Grange for women than there are positions for men. When the Grange was set up, they included women immediately. And that caught my interest. And it's on two pillars. They want to connect with people, and the Grange is really supportive of education. And so that really is very appealing to me. We have 175 Grange halls throughout Oregon, and they get active in regard to the commons and protecting the commons, such as the Postal Service.
Yes.
They did some really fine work on a resolution on that during the last convention that they had. And Jamie Partridge, you might have heard of Jamie.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he's been on the show.
I lured him out, and he came out at our last meeting and gave a talk, and he's now met with the national president of the Grange, who lives in Sandy, and they're going to look at doing maybe some work in regard to joining the Grand Alliance for for saving the Postal Service. So those types of connections are really fascinating. You get in there and you just start working and connecting and see what happens. Shake the dice.
We're going to have to schedule another hour interview because I want to continue with you, but we've got to get over here and get to her.
Please do.
But I want to ask you one more question. Any persons from the past or alive today that you particularly admired or look up to, not including Donald Trump? You didn't throw something
Darn,
down.
geez, you blew it. Yeah, Bernie Sanders. I was one of the only people in Idaho that was donating Bernie Sanders when he was a representative. I saw what the potential was, loved his message. I have a signed book of his, the long speech when he was doing his filibustering and that. He's one of my heroes, so I really look up to him. The current Pope, I look up to him also.
Yes.
I think that's a long time coming, some wonderful changes there. Quite a few women leaders too. I think there's we're missing a lot of potential there, a lot of leadership there that could be nurtured and pushed forward. So Emily's list is something that we get involved with a little bit there too.
Do Democratic Socialists of America, DSA?
Not yet. I'm thinking about
for a
it.
long, long time. DSA. Cornel West.
Oh yeah.
One of my heroes.
Oh yeah. I saw him speak at Portland State.
Yeah. We better stop because we have no time left. Let's move over here to Dana, okay?
Please.
Dana?
Dana. Yeah.
Dana. Oh, okay. When and where were you born? I'm not going to ask you the same trick question.
Oh, okay. I was born in Detroit in 1969. Right after they landed on the moon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Detroit, I get sad when I hear someone mention Detroit anymore because of what's going on there and the reasons for it and so on, but we can have another hour talking about that.
Yeah.
So let's continue, okay?
Okay.
Your cultural heritage, anything worth mentioning?
I am second generation Ashkenazi Jew. So my grandparents each had about 10 or so brothers and sisters. So I grew up in a really large kind of immigrant family in Detroit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have some stories about your childhood and what it was like.
Yeah.
I think of those kinds of families. The Creole family is sort of like that in New
Yeah.
Orleans, you know, big families and kids and.
Yeah. I like to joke that I spent my childhood going to funerals because all of my, well, it's not a joke, all of my grandparents' brothers and sisters were getting older, and so I would sit Shiva, which is the Jewish word for basically sitting around and celebrating the lives of folks who are dying. So I'm not uncomfortable with death because of that.
Rich cultural heritage, that's something you've got that they can't take away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your formal education.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in community development from the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. And I have a master's degree in counseling psychology.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
From
And you're
DC.
still working.
Yeah, I've had several careers, kinds of facets, I guess, of my career. But yeah, I have a part-time consulting business. I'm an organizational development consultant and leadership development specialist coach, and I have a consulting firm and part-time. And I also run a guest house in our home. We have an Airbnb guest house that we run. And then I have 3 kids, so
Wow.
I have lots of.
Where's your Airbnb? Where's your guest house?
It's in St. John's.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's with the bottom floor of our house.
Uh-huh.
So there's a whole separate entrance, and yeah,
How long have you been doing that?
just since February.
You like it?
Yeah, I love it. I love meeting new people.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
I can tell.
yeah.
Okay. And you have a husband, a wife, a girlfriend, or somebody like that?
Yeah, I have a husband named Eric.
Eric?
Yeah.
And what's he do?
He's a production manager for a very small company that makes synthetic crystals that are used in laser rods. So he helps figure out how to take the synthetic crystals and turn them into the rods.
Oh my God, my head's hurting. And you mentioned your children.
Yeah, I have a stepson, Rune, who's just heading off to college next week. And I have a daughter who we co-raised. She was sort of a foster child for a while, and then we have a very unique arrangement where we've been co-raising her with her mother since she was 2. And she will be she is in 5th grade. And then we have a 6-year-old who is in kindergarten for 2nd year.
Do they like mom?
I should hope so.
Yeah. And your political persuasion, are you a right winger or what?
No, I would
Tea
say
party
I'm left of center for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Memberships in political, social, or civic organizations, any of those are worth saying to the viewers so they can know you better?
I've been a part of professional associations related to my work for a while. I'm not currently really actively involved in any of those. Let me think. I think raising my kids has taken a lot of my time from things like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're going to have more kids?
No. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah. Persons from the past are alive today. Any names come to mind for you that stand out for you as you think about it?
Well, of course, I'm just thinking about the people who were already mentioned that I resonated with, and certainly the new Pope is quite inspiring. Cornel West, actually, talking about Cornel West, I just read Black Prophetic Fire, and I find him very inspiring as well. And he spoke at my graduation of my master's. When I got my master's degree, he was our speaker, so it was pretty awesome.
If I had a big fro, I could do my imitation of him. He reminds me of a black William F. Buckley.
Uh-huh.
So full of himself. Black prophetic. Never mind. They get me.
I think also I'm Buddhist in practice, and I think a lot of Buddhist leaders currently are inspirations to me as well.
And I forgot to ask you about your religious preference today.
Yeah, I consider myself a Buju, which is someone who is, there's
think I
actually
know
a word, yeah. Someone who is somewhat Jewish and somewhat Buddhist, and mostly Judaism for me is a cultural identification and not religious, but I take some of what I got from my childhood as a Jew, and then Buddhism is really more of the kind of spiritual principles that I organize around, but it's a kind of loose affiliation. Yeah.
What's important to you nowadays in your life?
I think what's important is standing up and doing what's right, and it's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Pat and I have come to know each other, and that's what I see as my life's work is in constantly discovering what that means. What's the right thing? What's the right way to contribute to society and to my kids and to the world? And it's a discovery process.
You got any music to kumbaya in there? Meet the right spirits here. But you never know. We're going to get what you have in here when the show starts, depending on the guest. And now and then there's a ringer that sneaks in here on me, and I find 3 minutes into the show it's a right winger, and I thought it was a left winger. And I had a crew member who just passed away a couple of weeks ago, with me for 15 years, and he was a staunch right winger, and we got along famously. You thought we were brothers.
Wonderful.
I'm as far left as you can go, and he was as far right as you could go. And now and then I'd see him mumbling as he's doing his thing in the control room, because my lefty is over here saying something I love, and Rick is going, yeah. Another story of mine. Where were we? You talked about people that you admire, look up to. Was there another one in your religious preference? And
I was just talking about current Buddhist leaders that I take inspiration from. Yeah. So certainly the Dalai Lama and Pema Chodron, and I look to people who we're talking about Buddhism today and can contemporize it for me as I try to think about what it means to practice on a daily basis.
And you do practice on a daily basis?
I practice meditation in the Vipassana tradition, and I haven't had as much of a consistent practice as I used to since I had kids, but it is a practice that's important to me.
Yeah.
Practice mindfulness when I can.
Yeah. And my plate's always overflowing. You know, I got so many things going on, and then I think about, well, I do stretching every morning. At my age, I've got to stretch. And then I think, there's a few minutes I'm taking a few deep breaths anyhow before I start my next exercise. And then if I just let go, and if I did that for just 10 seconds, I could tell the difference, because I did transcendental meditation many, many years ago. There's so many things to do besides simply experience, you know. So should we take a break now, then come back and start talking about the subject of our show? Let's take a break, Mr. Director. Okay, we are back, and thanks for staying tuned. And for you viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like my guests here tonight about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about tonight. And they indeed are unique and delightful to visit with. And we'll be talking about the threat of high-stakes testing, the public education, and looking at the tons of material you sent me.
They have overdone it.
I always prepare by a factor of 3 or 4, whatever I'm going to do ahead of time. I like that.
Wonderful.
I had a couple of questions in addition to the questions we were going to ask you during the show, and I wanted to read a couple of those to see what that brings out as we continue into the format here. But privatizing public education be a threat to public education?
Absolutely. By privatizing public education, you're taking resources away from the commons. And what's left is not what I think will make a strong society into the future. It's eroding our democracy, actually. So the privatization move, the way it's being carried out now, is wrong, and it's really doing some harm to students, teachers, and parents.
I think we can already see that we're well on the road to privatizing public education, and in places where it's further along, we see that it's sort of a Darwinian kind of thing where only the strongest are surviving. And so, we have I think a responsibility to provide education to all children. And what happens with privatization is that those who need extra support, those who can't kind of keep up with the market-driven way of providing education are left out in the cold.
Market-driven is a key phrase. See, that's the aging thing showing right now. I just lost my train of thought again.
Well, could I inject something here too? It brings it into home. If you bring it in close to home, sometimes it makes it a little more clear to people. We had a Measure 5 passed in Oregon years back, and I have a friend of mine who was a principal in the school system at that time, and he was able to sneak his way into the planning sessions for the people that were pushing for the Measure 5. And part of the reasons why Measure 5 that they were doing that, one of the main reasons was to weaken the school system and bring in vouchers. So that is a privatization move, and that has a real negative impact on our public schools. We now have a public school system that is where the school year is down to 165 years on the average. And that's one of the shortest in the nation.
165 days.
165 days of student contact. Usually you'll see an average of 180 throughout the nation. That's 3 school weeks shorter.
And as we move towards privatization, one of the things that we're seeing is that public policy around education is being influenced largely by business leaders, rather than experts in child development, rather than experts in education, and teachers themselves. Educators are getting squeezed out of the process. So I think when you have educational policy and practices being driven by a market agenda, you're really not thinking about how you can best serve children.
But you need to serve corporations, don't you, and investors? You're a smart aleck. You have a child in a charter school.
I do.
And why is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. In Oregon, we don't have private charters, we have public charters. And we have nonprofit charters. So there's a little bit of a different influence. But I still, theoretically, do not believe in charter schools. Yet I have chosen it for my daughter. And one of the reasons why I have is because I feel like I don't have options. In the standardized public schools, the testing culture, the methodology that's being used, the practices are not conducive to her learning. So I'll give you an example. In her school now, she gets more than 15 minutes to eat her lunch and more than 15 minutes for recess. There are arts offered where in her neighborhood school there may not be. The class size is significantly less than it would be in the public school. At the same time, it's a difficult decision for me to make because I would love neighborhood schools and public schools to be serving our children. Many charter schools are not serving our children better than public schools either, And they're also creating, I think, there's access to charter schools is not equal for all children, and that's a concern for me. But as I see how education reform has impacted public education, I no longer feel comfortable with having my children in standardized public schools. I would never have my child attend a private, a for-profit charter school. And even this choice that I'm making is a difficult one to make.
Yeah. The difference between a public charter school and a private charter school, what's the difference between those two?
Well, what I really mean is nonprofit. It's really about a nonprofit system.
Versus a profit. I guess New Orleans is probably all charter schools.
It's all for
Yes.
profit,
For
I believe.
profit.
Which I'm not positive.
That
about
I'm not sure of, but it's almost all charter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is all charter. There are no more.
There's a small segment left.
Is there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but it's
So-
very, very small.
Looking at it for Darwinian consideration, public education is moving in that direction. Is that how America is going to be going in the future, such that education is designed to produce automatons to fit into the corporate agenda of what's important, of materialism, rather than the public welfare and living lovingly toward fellow human beings?
Well, I think the concern is there that we are trying to create one standardized cookie cutter type of learner that will then become a standard cookie cutter type of worker.
Yeah.
And we know that all of education reform is really driven by focusing on very technical knowledge. There's a move away in the Common Core standards from creative literature, looking at creative literature, and focusing more in the high school years on what's called close reading and really analyzing texts. And there's a lot of, I think, innovative thinking that is being leached out of education in service to producing more technically driven workers in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It certainly is having an impact on our institutions of higher education. They're looking more at workforce development, and I have a major concern about that. I think of the higher education as being a well-rounded education and not just looking for filling a specific job.
I think about a session that Pat and I facilitated recently to talk about some testing, and a high school teacher came, and she talked about how the students who are graduating now, since I think since No Child Left Behind, she remembers back before that and how teaching has changed and the students have changed, and she talked about the way that teaching methodologies have changed as a result of education reform has meant that she has students that are graduating from high school now who she feels like are not the same kind of critical thinkers as those that she originally started teaching.
Yeah. My daughter teaches a capstone, has taught it for 10 years, and I asked her that question just the other day. I said, Sally, how is your student body, how are your students changed from 10 years ago to today? And she said, Dad, our kids now really can't think for themselves. They have to be told what to do. Where 10 years ago, they would come in and they just had ideas, they were creative, they were pushing things, and it was doing, it was great. Now, I spend a lot of time getting them to break out of that mold and start getting creative and using their own heads, and not a prescribed mode of thinking.
You know of any research about educational systems in other Western cultures, in European nations, or even in Japan and China? How successful are those countries in producing citizens that are more concerned with social justice than with working for a company or corporation or being widgets?
I'm not familiar with research that looks at that particular element. What kind of citizens do we have? I know that there's a lot of research that talks about how Finland actually is known for producing very creative thinkers, and they're lauded for their educational system, which is very much interest-based and more well-rounded than the direction that we've gone in. And I think China and some of the places that we're beginning to model after are places that also are very focused towards creating very narrow types of workers.
And the Chinese actually are trying to break out of that mold of a prescriptive, dogmatic type. They look to the United States as creativity. We have so many Nobel Prize winners, how many, 27, something along that line. Our workforce, I looked at the stats the other day, and our workforce is compared to, they're the highest productive workforce in the world, and that doesn't come from broken schools. The closest countries that come to a workforce and productivity is, let's see, what was that? Oh gosh, I know England was 61% of the American productivity. Germany was 80% of American productivity. So if our schools were in such dire straits, we wouldn't see that, I don't think.
Let's move on because time is running by really fast here, and some of your questions, we've got to get to some of those because we're going to have to go for 3 more hours. Why are elders and other community members without kids in school important players in regard to public school reform? Why are you old folks so involved with that?
Well, public schools are one of our last bastions of democracy, and elders tend to vote more. Our group tends to vote more than the younger groups. Many elders today are involved directly with raising their grandchildren, and so they have a vested interest there, not only as just being grandparents, but also as people that are raising kids.
Yeah.
So they want to see a quality education for these kids. Many elders live on fixed incomes, and they want to see their tax money used in an appropriate way for a service that is productive and is efficient and effective. Also, many elders are retired educators, and that's one of the reasons why I'm involved with the Retired Educators Association. We want to stir it. Come on, look, this is happening. Can we go support our teachers? Can we go support our local schools? What are we going to do? And we're just starting that now.
I think just pragmatically, the children that we're educating today are going to be the people who are taking care of us as we age. Really, so what kind of people do we want caring for us? That's just a pragmatic. But largely, I think this is, I've heard this talked about as a proxy argument. You know, we talk about, well, why should we care if we don't have children? I have, people that are younger who don't have children, why should they get involved? And really, we're not talking about education per se. What we're talking about is what kind of a society do we want to live in, and what kind of values do we want to be instilling in our children and through education? And do we want it to be a very rigid kind of system, or do we want it to be a place that's really about learning and discovery? And what kind of society do we want to live in?
High stakes. I wanted to linger with what you said because I'm enjoying your responses to both of you, of course, but now and then you say something that I didn't quite formulate my question, but you knew where I was coming from and finished it for me, so to speak. So I like your thinking as we're talking about these things. That's a personal stroke. Did you recognize that?
Thank you. See, that's what we want to cultivate in our kids, right? The ability to do that.
What is high stakes testing? What is that? High stakes testing.
Well, back in 2002, it was a bipartisan legislation called No Child Left Behind, and we called a test and punish type of model was brought into educational reform.
Test and punish?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And they hid behind the alleged gaps, opportunity gaps between our Hispanics and black kids and our white kids. They said, we got to close that, and we want to make sure that this happens. And so they brought in every state would have to develop a set of standards and then also use testing to see whether or not in grades 3 through 8, and then at least once in the high school they had to test all the kids in those grades. And the ones that didn't meet annual yearly progress by their dictates, well, then they would be penalized down the line, either with a scarlet letter, or even to the point of being taken over by the state and reconstituted, and the teachers let go and the principal let go and that type of thing.
Who decided what the scores had to be to pass and to
Well, the feds set it up what they would determine the criteria, and the thing is by the year, I think it was last year, all children would be at grade level in reading and math, and I don't think we quite hit that. You know, so the test and punish thing has not proven to be actually, it's not really working.
Well, I think part of the big concern about our newer tests, like the SBAC test, is that the cut scores, or what we look at what's passing, is actually a moving target. And so that's sort of problematic. Standardized testing usually has, you know, some clear parameters, but because the SBAC test has not really been validated, and because it's sort of like we're laying the train tracks as we go along with these tests, and our children are the guinea pigs. And a lot of the concern is that they're really not validated. We really don't know to what degree these tests measure what they say they measure. And even what we're looking at as proficient scores is changing. I think when you talk about what is high stakes testing, the important part is the high stakes. There's a role for testing in education. I think what people are most concerned about is that we're tying these scores, which are on badly constructed tests that aren't developmentally appropriate, we're tying them to things like, do schools get funding? And what do teachers get paid? And we know that test scores are loosely correlated with a teacher's performance. Test scores are mostly about poverty and the resources and privileges that children have. And you can look at test scores as being really reflective of that. All the research shows that. So the high stakes, the concerns about high stakes is that we're using these scores for all kinds of things that they shouldn't be used for. And if a score is not good, it can have an impact on your teacher's salary. It can have an impact on your child being tracked. There are a lot of reasons why children don't perform well on tests. If testing is only one small part of how we make decisions about their potential and their life, that's one thing. But when there are very high stakes associated, then it's a problem. And I think largely another big concern that's been gathering steam has to do with data privacy and how the data is being used. And that's another really high stake. So we know that the government is moving towards taking data that's collected on children with testing, with the SBAC, and even younger testing, marrying it with health information and creating this larger data record that the government has plans to collect. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's something called the Personal Achievement Record.
Some conspiracies are true.
Yeah. And there's a desire to use this data in various ways. And I think most parents are not aware of how test scores and other data that come from their children may be used in the future. And we know that the FERPA laws have been weakened in the past 10 years that actually allow for this keeping of longitudinal data. And that's a huge stake at risk, especially when you're talking about using data that comes from poorly constructed, unvalid tests. So this is what we mean when we talk about high stakes.
Why is it when I'm talking to you now, I think of Daniel Ellsberg or other whistleblowers?
That's what we need, is whistleblowers. And I think
that's right. We need, and we're getting it going.
But I think one thing we struggle with is that the media, when you look at the testing companies like Pearson.
How about Murdoch?
That's right. Rupert Murdoch is connected to Pearson. He's also connected to all the media outlets. So we see that what the general public doesn't get media that really is telling the truth about these issues, and they get a lot of spin. So that's a big, we have to be grassroots, and we have to reach people on a personal level. You're
causing me problems. I just heard that Rupert Murdoch bought National Geographic. I'm leaving the country. I have a brief aside to my excitement about Rupert Murdoch. Shall we continue? Because we're running out of time. See what else I can. We have a slide that lists those sources and the websites, and we keep talking about them, but they're going by so fast. I'm not sure we ever put that up on the screen. Shall we put that up on the screen now? So guys out there, Parents Across America, Oregon Save Our Schools, United Opt Out, and Fair Test. You want to say something about those now, or shall we continue on?
What do you think?
Well, since they're up there, I think basically we want to provide these, right, because we want people to be able to get more information. We've only just touched on things.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and so these, I would definitely recommend that people go and they explore. I've been a focused student of this for a couple of years, and I just know very little compared to what I need to know. And when you do learn what's going on with education, I think that you'll be compelled to learn more.
Absolutely.
And those are the sites where you will learn more?
Yes, and especially for Oregon parents, I think Oregon Save Our Schools is a great local site. And one of the things that we can do is we can opt our children out of standardized testing. It's our 14th Amendment right. And actually in Oregon, we even have a state House Bill, 2655, that was passed last year that provides extra protection to parents that says we can opt our children out for any reason. And I think parents need to be informed about how they can do this. And once we take the tests away, we take the data away, which then changes how all of the testing is impacting our children's day-to-day experience.
Well, how do the students then move on to the next grade if you don't have the testing for them to consider whether they're making the grade or the cut or what?
Yeah, well, teachers have had formative assessments forever. We have many good assessments that teachers use to understand what kids are learning and what they know, and they use them all the time. You can also, in a formal way, use formative assessments to prove, well, to show what you've learned. There are actually alternatives to using the standardized tests, such as the SBAC, by developing a portfolio of work samples that show that you've integrated learning. And there are ways that parents can have their children do that.
Yeah. Well, Parents Across America is an organization that we're looking at starting a statewide organization umbrella group, Parents Across America Oregon. We're going to be meeting on that in the very near future. But what that does, they're connected with, they can keep us people posted on legislative concerns. They also have a wonderful toolkit if parents want to get together and push the advocacy for positive school change that is evidence-based. That toolkit is just a fantastic, wonderful thing that also connects with other organizations. Oregon Save Our Schools is affiliated with Parents Across America. And they're also affiliated with the United Opt Out. United Opt Out is a advocacy group in America that you can go in and you can, by state, you can touch it and it'll show you what the rules are for opting out in that state and how to go about doing it. So
there's serious resistance.
Oh yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, in New York State, which has had the longest experience with this kind of standardized testing, now the movement has grown such that 250,000 people opted their children out of high-stakes standardized testing last year. And really, regardless of the laws that we have statewide, we need to recognize that our 14th Amendment rights allow us the opportunity to opt our children out. And even in states where they don't have legislation, like Oregon, that's happening. I think the other thing I want to say to parents, being a parent in the public school system, is I know that there's a lot of threat comes from the federal government, through the states, to the schools. And sometimes parents we know of are trying to opt out and getting resistance. And it's absolutely a parent's right to opt out. Oftentimes administrators don't even know the laws or how this actually needs to work. Parents can outreach United Opt Out, they can outreach Oregon Save Our Schools, and we can support them through that process if they're running into that. Another kind of myth or concern is that people are told that if you opt out, you're putting our school in danger. We may not receive funding. We may be closed. Our school could close down. I think it's important to mention that no school in the entire country has ever been closed down because of opt-out. However, many schools have been closed down because of poor test scores. And recently, the ESEA is going through a reauthorization, and it looks like we're working towards, legislators are working towards making it so that threat of funding being cut will not come through.
Snowden is who you remind me of, but we're going to need to stop in another minute or so. We're running out of time.
Okay.
Look at the camera and have a closing comment or so for 20 or 30 seconds for the viewers. Camera 3. Leave your chair where it is.
Right here?
Leave it where it is.
Leave it right here?
Yeah. Because the camera's already fixed.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
More than a score.
Sorry about that.
No
Yeah.
problem. That's fine.
Yeah. People get informed, please, and we need your help. Go talk to your teachers, get organized, get block parties together, and get to your school boards and tell them that we want good schools that are based on local control and are providing a well-rounded education for our kids. Okay.
And you, Diana.
I just want to say our kids are more than a score. Our teachers are more than a score. And for parents out there that have some kind of vague dissatisfaction with school, there's probably a connection to what we're talking about, the high-stakes standardized testing culture and education reform. Sometimes it's difficult to figure that out, but start looking to see how the things that are dissatisfying for you and your child's school might be related, and get educated and join
Okay.
the struggle.
We got to stop. Going to yell at me. Public service announcements, Mr. E. Before we leave, you want to tell the viewers about something that they should know about PSAs. I got to remind you about KFC and that Kentucky Fried Chicken. Dr. Don's KFC, kind, friendly and charitable. Be kind, be friendly and be charitable to you too. And you too, and you too. Thanks again for coming. I really mean it.
Thank you very much. Yeah.